Hi everyone, welcome to FEBE Fan of Stories. Today I'm joined by Brian McRitchie. How are you doing, Brian?
I'm doing really well.
Lovely glasses, by the way.
Thank you.
I'm joined by Ryan Edwards of Audoo. Ryan, how you doing, my friend?
Very well, thank you.
First thing I've got to say is, hair's looking great, and I love those buttons.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I'd claim it was me, but my wife definitely would have bought it. 100%.
So, listen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks.
And huge congratulations for everything that you're doing with Audoo.
Thank you.
Now, let's just put this into a bite-size overview of what Audoo is. It's an audio meter.
Yep.
You plug in the wall, and it basically captures every single song that is played in a venue,
Yep.
and it then feeds that information in real time to the PRS, which is the...
So in the UK,
PRS?
it's known as the Performance Rights Society.
Okay.
But there are many what's called performing right organisations around the world. So so anybody in the UK will know PRS and PPL.
Yeah, okay. And they're basically the people that are in control of the distribution of royalties to artists.
Correct. That's
okay. Now this business is a game changer because before that happened, you would have people that would be sitting in a venue, back a bit of a back of a fag packet, noting what was played, and then probably extrapolate a bit of information, and then just send that back. And this is a rough guide of maybe how we distribute those royalties over a period, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
This has now made it an art, a science,
Yep.
in the way that information is collected and then fed back.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you think about the history of how royalties and music has worked, it's almost been impossible to track till now, because you look at guys like PRS and all the different societies around the world. Most of them are 100 years old. They were created by orchestral musicians who almost formed not unions, but they're membership associations. They're non-for-profit businesses, and their job is to collect money and pay it to the people that were played. And of course, until now, until solutions like ourselves, how did you know in your local gym, your local cafe, even to a multinational retailer, what was played in there? Outside of sending somebody with a clipboard or saying, "Oh, could you send us a spreadsheet of what happened?" So it was they almost had an impossible task on doing that. This is where technology and companies like us come into our fruition, because A, we're problem solvers, and B, you can automate this, you can digitize it, and we can see within a few seconds of all the places that our audio meters are around the world exactly what's happening, which is fascinating.
Right, so as you know, Ryan, stories is what we're all about here, because we just love what basically leads to, when an idea basically leads to something amazing happening.
Of course.
You were in a large department store.
Yep.
And you heard one of your songs playing.
Yeah.
Now, in a previous life, you were in a group that had a top 10 album. You toured with supporting the Killers.
We did.
So you'd had a really successful music career, but all of a sudden, a few years later, you hear your song playing, and the question from your wife was,
how much are you getting paid?
Right.
And
that was the moment.
That was it. Well, I mean, her moment was to buy a very new expensive handbag that day. My answer was definitely not a lot of money, so you're not getting it. And I guess firstly, thanks for bringing up the rock and roll past, because I keep telling my daughter that I was cool in a former life, and
you're
it's just another reference
still very
point.
cool, right?
I know, it's another reference point that she's going to see, but and that was it. So my wife Holly is an accountant, and it was almost that typical accountant story of, how much are you getting paid? And I jokingly, it's like pennies. Like don't even worry about it. It's so minute. So as much as we, I've joked about her wanting to buy the handbag that day, it was almost farcical on what we're talking about. And of course, a few weeks later, I happened to receive my royalty statements, and it wasn't on there. Now, realistically, royalties are not paid within 3 weeks. They can take a year to 18 months, because of course the society has to collect the money, work out who it goes to, cut it, split it, and distribute it. But I remember reading this royalty statement and thinking, I just don't understand it. Where does it say I was played in that department store or that gym or here or there or anything? And it just...
There's nothing.
I mean, the amount of money on the statement was like a cup of coffee. So, you almost, you don't spend time reading down it. But, and that was it. And I think, we've seen smart devices, we've seen audio recognition, the most, popular being Shazam, that everybody's known. And I kind of went, well, how do they know? What is it? How do they get that information from, whoever's iPod was probably playing that day? Because trust me, we have not been on a playlist on any radio station for probably a decade and a half at best. And I just went, it was, one evening I sat there and I'm like, I should Google away at that. I'm just going to sit here and tap away. How do they know that my music was played there? And what I found was forums and articles and seminars of just artists complaining and saying, we just want to be paid fairly. We just want to be paid for what has been played out there. That's it. Find a solution, implement it, and get it. And I'm very lucky to have spent 15 years in technology, in what I always call my professional career, because as much as having a rock and roll past, it's not a proper job, and you hear that from any of the writers and musicians that we work with for the biggest stars on the planet. They all say I don't really have a job, and I just went into this mode to say, well, I get tech, I get the industry, because I'm obsessed with music. I think we can have a crack at solving this, and and that was 3 years ago.
So Ryan, I can't think of many rock stars who have made it successful transition to an entrepreneur career, but you clearly have. Is there anything you learned in these early days that have helped you get to that happy state now?
Yeah, and I think it's funny because when you're in the moment, and even now I hear the word entrepreneur and I still get imposter syndrome, like every second of every day. And even when people introduce me as a CEO, and I almost look behind me and say, where's he then? And I realise, through mentors and people that and have telling my story, even back to like my band days, we would pay a venue a few thousand people as our own headline show. And the second we finished off stage, I would literally sprint to the side of the stage, grab our merchandise, our swag, our t-shirts, our hoodies, our pin badges, whatever we got, and sprint to front of the house. and I'd be there, buy your t-shirts, buy it with our logo. And I always remember, there was one, we headlined Norwich Arts Club, which was, was a beautiful venue, like old church to play. And I'm like selling this t-shirt to this guy, and he's, so do you know the band? And I'm just on stage for the last 45 minutes. Clearly my drum kit was bigger and I'm shorter than I think I am. But and I look back at my entire life. My dad was a on the road salesman, and I always used to remember he used to have pens, and I used to steal his pens from our dining room, which is where I used to have a box of stuff, and I used to sell them to kids at school as like never-ending pens of ink and things like that. And I think back to my entire life, because of being a musician. I used to give drum lessons, on a weekend to local kids and all that kind of stuff. I played in party covers bands to make some extra money. I played people's weddings and things like that. And actually, I think you become more self-aware as you get older, and you look back to those moments in your life, and you're like, maybe this always was the path. It was just the teachers teaching you, because they are so ingrained in the system, and I've got friends who are teachers who literally left school, did their A-levels, went to university, did their PGCE, and are still teachers, right? They've never ever left the system. And you look at it now and I'm like, you've got to get out of the system to really understand what you are and how you can open it up. It's really important.
I love that hashtag, get out the system.
Yeah, totally.
That's what it's about, right? As a founder, get out the system.
It is. And I don't know. I probably, and having gone on this journey, particularly as a founder and a CEO for the last few years, you do, and I'm quite cheeky with it as well, but you do find yourself always pushing a little bit more. I see it in the team. The team that we recruit are, they're always wanting to push boundaries. They're always pushing us harder. They never stop, and it's, I just think it just becomes part of your life and your world.
How many are the team now?
So we're just over 35 now around the world. So yeah, which
35 people. That's a responsibility.
It is. It's huge. It's really scary at times, and I've always said, I'm kind of rephrasing your question here, but that people ask about responsibility and they say, what keeps you up at night? And I always say, actually the responsibility for 35 people's mortgages or rents or whatever it is. That is the bit that, it doesn't matter what happens in a day. If we lose a deal, win a deal, if, like the office Wi-Fi goes down, all that matters to me at the very, very end of the month is that everybody is paid correctly and on time. That's it.
That is numero uno.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything else can wait and can catch up and you can solve.
So let's plug a bit of the gap here in terms of going from learning the art of the hustle, which you did in the retail world, I'd love to have seen you in action. 'Cause I think I could have learned a thing or two. Maybe I need to come and watch you now. But the business has really, really taken off. And let's just highlight the fact in terms of how it's taken off by the investors that you've attracted to this, right?
Yeah.
Household names. So if I'm allowed to mention some of the names,
Of course.
like Bjorn Ulvaeus from ABBA,
Yeah.
Sir Paul McCartney. How the hell have you attracted these kind of names?
I still don't know. No, I think what we're solving, particularly in music, everybody gets, so when I look at our investors, I've got, some who are interested in music, some that of course are megastars and our heroes, and others who are just great angel investors who understand good business and say, yeah, great, I'll invest in it. I want to be part of the story and make sure we help you along. But when you explain the problem you're solving, they get it straight away.
Yeah.
And I think Bjorn was the moment, because I've always said, my parents throughout my career, outside of when I studied in retail, when I transitioned to technology, about 10 years ago, I don't really think they knew what I did, for a living. They just didn't get it. And my mum is just a massive ABBA fan. I grew up dancing to ABBA in our kitchen, I think, as all of our generation did, and hopefully will continue for generations. And I'd done an interview on BBC News, which was, kind of crazy in itself. And the next morning I get this email. It says, hi, my name is Bjorn and I'm a singer-songwriter. And I saw your interview.
I gave an introduction, I love it.
I know, and I saw you, and I think what you're doing is brilliant. And I've been talking about this for forever. And I'm so pleased that you're doing it. And if there's any way I can help, please let me know. And I'm like...
So did you go, whoa, I know who you are, Bjorn.
I read it and I'm like, this is one of my friends winding me up. Like, I just didn't believe it. And again, I turned to Holly because we were sat at home. This was middle of COVID. We're at home in lockdown, and it's really tough to leave the house. And I'm like, that's Bjorn from ABBA. And so of course, cool as Bjorn, it's a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much for the email. I'm so glad you're supportive of what we're doing. Maybe we should have a Zoom call, and I could tell you, and because we've got lots more exciting things coming, beyond what you're allowed to say on the BBC, etc. And like within an instant, it's like, sure, I'm free tomorrow at 10. Like, oh my gosh, and of course I jump on the Zoom and there he is, he's at his place in Stockholm, and we just talked, and I told him everything, and he said, really good on you. And he said, right at the very end, he said, do you need any investment? And I said, well, we're just closing out a round right now. I said, but we're in a really good place, Bjorn. I said, I've got a British family office, very, very wealthy, very successful office, who are backing the round, they've got a check, just amazing people. I said, but, they've kind of covered it. And he said, well, look, he said, I'd love to help in any way. He said, so, if you want to put me down for a bit, just put me down. So, of course, I then find myself having to ring the family office, who I just agreed a multi-million-pound investment, and say, hey, can I reduce you by a little bit? And they're like, why? And I told them, and they're like, absolutely, like whatever he wants. They're like, but we need a signed photo. And I'm like, okay, deal. And that was it. And he's just, so we're talking, we're 2 years on now from Bjorn becoming an investor and a friend and a fan, and it happens all the time. I'll be in the office or at home, and my phone will go and it'll be like, Sweden? I don't know anybody in Sweden. Like, hello? It's like, Ryan, it's Bjorn. I'm like, oh, hey Bjorn, how's it going? So that's it. Yeah, and then exactly the same with the MPL team. We were really lucky. We were chosen by Abbey Road very early in our journey to go through their incubator. So we got to spend lots of time.
Wow, the Abbey Road incubator.
Yeah, in fact, before we had an office, we based all of our meetings out of Abbey Road.
Wow, what a great start!
It's great for closing investment, right? They'd be like, hey, can we meet you? Say, yeah, come to Abbey Road. Like everybody came, and Isabel, the MD, and Karim, and the amazing work that team do, because they, the music industry is complex to navigate. It's really, really difficult, and also it doesn't particularly welcome technology, right? They're scared because they've been hit for 30 years by tech, So they help you do that, and of course it was a very, very similar introduction of, you know, we think we have some shared interests. I'm like, yeah, I'd say, you know, and again they wanted to support the journey, and the MPL team have been, again, just incredible to us, and so kind, and just heroes everywhere you go, and yeah, it's almost the party trick these days, you know, for people to be like, go on, tell them who your investors are. You know, it's magical. So yeah. This
sounds like it's a win-win-win-win
Yeah.
kind of situation, but there must be somebody or some set of people who are not winning from what you're doing. Who are they, and how have they challenged you if they have?
Yeah, so when you look at the way royalties work, of course, it's all about distribution, and you should be, if your music is being consumed, then you should be paid, right?
Absolutely.
And I think historically, when you've looked at it, it's the big voices that have been paid the best, because they've got the big legal teams and the big accountancy teams, so they can challenge the model, and they can ensure they're being paid well by it. Which you could argue somebody like Bjorn could lose out on our solution, but he's very much about the next generation. Look, he's done all right. He's had a very good,
very
quite
well
amazing.
known.
He's I mean, you know, what they achieved as a group is just even now. So it almost transcends generations, their music.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that some of my investees would talk about me the way you've just talked about your backer. Probably they wouldn't. However, you've clearly found a great backer, which is wonderful. But you've had such a level of success already in attracting even more and exciting investors in the very sector that you're in. You must have also attracted some interest from predatory people who want to pick you up at too early a stage.
Yeah, and I think that this is one of the best things, you know. I think if you get an acquisition offer and you have a VC, and they you know, it's very much, well, you know, their model is churn. Their model is to pick it, and, you know, if they can make, I don't know, 10x uplift, then it's like, great, get it sold. That's it, move it on. And we're very fortunate to have a number of approaches, some that resulted in, you know, big term sheets. I mean, the most recent, I probably could have bought, you know, Caribbean island or two with the proceeds of it. And of course, you know, the first thing you do...
That'll make your investors happy.
Yeah, I know. but you know, I phone, you see, again, you phone family office, and you're like, guys, like, I haven't had this moment yet. This, you know, what do you think? And they're like, why would you sell now? You can double and triple this yet again. And it's having somebody who's the voice of reason, who's been there and done it so many times over. And as you say, that you're not forced to do anything. You know, they always say to me, you know, Ryan, we'll back you. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's not something really stupid, we will back you, like, all the time, which is... yeah, it's very special to have, actually, like, and we definitely consider ourselves lucky to have.
I mean, that's fantastic, because there's so many businesses, or so many founders of businesses who haven't gone on to properly fulfil their potential, because they there's too many funds around offering them too much money, and you get tempted. So well done for you for not being tempted, and well done to them for persuading, you know, letting you do what you wanted to do.
Thank you. And actually, it's becomes less about the money then, you know, we've always said it's about the mission and what we're doing. And of course, look, you know, we all have to live, you know, and it's, you know, we live in very strange times when it comes to financial positions for everyone, but just knowing that you have that and you've got somebody there, it's, don't get me wrong, and, you know, Mrs. Edwards would tell you at certain times that, yeah, we could probably be in Barbados now having a very nice life, but I can't retire yet. I'm 37, right? You can't stop, right? Stop now.
You're a chicken, right?
Yeah,
Spring chicken.
And you get to hang out with your heroes.
Let me tell you the bad news. Entrepreneurs never retire. You just work in a different way.
True. Well, as long as I still get the calls from Bjorn, I think we'll be good. So,
you know, I worry when Brian sends me a WhatsApp, because I know if I send a WhatsApp message to Brian, straight away he's on it. if I'm not replying in 5 minutes, he's like, where's this guy's reply?
Yeah, why are you working? Get back to work. Yeah, exactly. So no, it's true, but it is, and it can be really hard to switch off. You know, you know this better than anyone, because this is my other child, right? And it's and it can take over. It can be all encompassing. But you know, when you have some of the moments that, you know, you get to describe, you know, like in a scenario like this, you realise what a journey you've been on, and you just, why would you want it to end?
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
You know, for just a bit of money, it's not that.
I just got to focus on the calibre of people that you're recruiting into this business, right? We've got a lovely chap sat opposite us. He's making sure that we don't go too off track here. Doing a great job, Alex. But incredible people like Alex. You are getting some brilliant people who are at the top of their game in big corporations joining what is still, okay, it's not a startup, it's a scale up. How do you manage to attract great people? Because it is a big problem for so many businesses and a limiting cause of why some businesses don't hit their potential. How are you achieving that?
I think for me, I always say I've recruited a team that I dreamed of being part of, you know, so because they are all the best at what they do, and I think it's something that a lot of founders struggle with. So, you know, when you start the business and it's you sat in your home office or at your kitchen table or wherever you started it from, you're doing everything, you know, from your end of year accounts to your VAT returns to, you know, writing a little mini press release, hoping that somebody's going to get picked up to a sales pitch, to even sitting in a product meeting, right? And as we grew and we got, you know, these amazing people, you learn that you have to let go of stuff because again, they're better at what they do than you will ever be. We've got team members that are growing their career with us and, you know, will go on and do their own amazing things. You know, they will create their own businesses and they will do it way better than I did, you know, at 100%. I think when I particularly look at my senior team, so, you know, Deb's our CFO, Alex our CMO, Steve our CTO, who's just a genius, you know, Glyn our COO and Will our CCO, they are just, again, they're just the best at what they do. Their experiences, the way they interact with each other and everything, and they run the ship day to day, which is special. And then there's always one person, and it's funny because I never mention her in any interviews or anything, and she's actually our head of finance, and it's Holly, my wife. And it's because...
That is beautiful, right?
Yeah, and it's because, you know, I was 18 months into the business and we had our first acquisition offer, and I remember they were asking me for all of these things, you know, management accounts and all this kind of stuff, and I'm pretty good with numbers and I'm all right with a spreadsheet, but there's certain things, if you're not an accountant, you just don't know how to do. That's the reality of it. And Holly had just finished her maternity leave. COVID had hit, so of course, you know, she hadn't gone back to work, and she said, "Look, you know, we discussed. She said, I'm going to take a few months extra off." And it was just as we were kind of having the acquisition offer and going into our Series A, and you know, one evening I'm like sat there pulling my hair out. She said, "What's the matter?" And I'm like, "I just can't do this. I'm like got an iPad and I'm googling how to do something." And she's like, let me help you. And she like grabs my laptop, sorts it all.
Done.
You know, and you know, the family office, when they invested, of course, so they met Holly during the process, and they said to us, they said throughout, you know, so is she involved? Is she not? What's the scenario? And I said, well, like, she's kind of helping me. And just before their investment came in, they phoned me and they said, look, you know, Holly should be a major part of this business. You know, she knows it inside out because she's been sat next to you in the kitchen table from day one anyway. You know, she's massively helped you deliver this investment from a finance perspective. You know, and we have a 3-year-old, so it wasn't right for Holly to come back full time to work. But you know, having that, you know, that person that you can rely on and trust the most, which probably means I'm harder on her than anybody. You know, she's the only one that we shout at each other in the office because, of course, she earns that. But yeah, you realise that having somebody like that, A, of course, in your life, and then B, in the business, and of course what I find is 9 times out of 10 the whole team go to Holly anyway, and she'll be like, yeah, I'll get it sorted for you, don't worry, you know, it's brilliant. And that's it. So yeah, it's you know, she's definitely one of the key pillars of what we're doing and how we're achieving it.
Oh, I love that.
Ryan, I'd be interested to know, given that you very wisely turned down a couple of early offers, what's the timing on that? When do you think the right time? What's the kind of offer you would get very interested in?
And you know, this is a question I've had throughout the investment journey, you know, where's the exit, right? And for us, so right now we're live in 8 countries around the world, which is crazy in itself because, you know, we launched those 8 countries without ever leaving the UK because we had to, because we couldn't get on a plane. It was illegal to at the time.
Yeah, that's nice if you have a young family as well.
Yeah, exactly. So and it did when we were home and you spend time with that. I think for me, I've always said there are 3 questions that I have to answer to myself truthfully. So the first one is, are the team looked after? Is this somebody that has the same or similar values to me and are going to like treat them the way that I do? They probably will tell you I'm horrible now, but you know, genuinely, you know, do I think they're going to look after? The second thing is the legacy. Is this business going to continue? It's not somebody who's just going to rip apart the IP and do whatever they want, and they serve the artists and the creators the way that we want to, and that we do, and that we will continue to. And I think that the third one, for me is, I came from, very humble roots in Wolverhampton, is, the amount of money that's involved, how much good can I do with it? So, I've said it multiple times, so my daughter will have the best education that I can afford for her, and she will have everything that I want. She will be taught that she's got to work for it and everything, but I'm not going to die and be the richest person in the graveyard. We're going to give it all away, and she will have a lot more than I had, but she will need to have her own career and work for it and earn it herself as well. Wow. I think if I can answer those 3 questions, then that'll be the moment. Okay.
What I'd love to know is, you have got some great people around you.
Yeah.
You must have been given some incredible advice. So, what is the best? I mean, maybe you can't limit it to one piece of advice. But what is some of the best advice you've been given, and therefore, what advice would you give to people that would be watching this and hopefully would be very inspired by what you're saying?
I think it's, for me, it's you surround yourself with the best people. That is it. And beyond that, have people that you can go to who aren't. Having people that you can just pick up the phone to, who either are involved or aren't involved, who have either been there or not will cheerlead you, because nobody needs just a bunch of yes people around you, but people who will just allow you to breathe and step back, because it can get on top of you, and you can just see blurred lines the whole time.
We've met a lot of entrepreneurs, some massively successful, just that humility, you can't believe it. Some not so much, but it always astounds me how many, do have that humility. I guess that's something I feel that's such a great quality. I guess you agree, right?
I think there's almost 2 parts to that. So the first one is, I will do anything. So we moved office 2 weeks ago, and I was loading furniture from our old office into the van. We had some flat pack. I was there with a screwdriver, as did the whole team, and of course it got very competitive who could build the set of drawers the quickest, but there's that side to it, and we feel very equal. We've always talked about a flat structure at Audoo. Yes, of course you do have to have levels of reporting and things like that as you grow as a business, but I interact with absolutely everybody. In fact, in our new office, they put me in my own glass box, and 9 times out of 10 I refuse to sit in there because I want to be out on the floor with the rest of the team. And then the second side is one of the cool things about this job is you do get to travel. You do get to meet amazing people, and I've been telling this story a lot lately. So I went out to Dubai a few weeks back, for some business, which was great. And when I got to the airport, because I fly a lot, I got upgraded to a first class flight. I've never flown first class in my life. I think I earned a gold card sat right at the back of the plane the really hard way, right? So I earned that upgrade. It's taken me a long time to get it, but I did.
But it was sweet.
And it was amazing. I'm like, God, I don't know if I can fly another way again if I could afford it. But I get on the flight, and I have a thing about when I fly, I love being the last person on the flight. I just, I'm like, well, if I'm going to spend 7 or 8 hours on there, why are you queuing up to get on it, right? So I'm like, you invite me into the lounge, and I've got a first class flight, right? I'm going to enjoy this, right? And as I get on the flight, it's as I say, I'm literally like last but one. There's a girl who gets on in front of me, and she is in like head to toe Gucci and all the top brands, right? And I mean, brands I probably don't even know. And she sat down in my seat, and she started taking selfies of her. And as I say, the other thing when I fly is I just fly as comfy as possible. I put jogging trousers, a t-shirt on. I've got my iPad. I'm just going to watch that. It's like it's the one time I don't have to watch Peppa Pig on TV. It's my moment. And I'm kind of like just stood there in quite an awkward way. And the flight attendant comes like running up to me. She says, "Are you okay?" And I said, she's in my seat. And she's like, "Oh, she's sorry." And she moved this girl out of my seat. She said, "Yeah, please sit down," and brings the pajamas and the champagne, all the nice experience. And a few minutes later, the flight attendant came to me, and she said she was Instagramming as she went down, in your seat and stuff. And I said, "Oh, okay, cool." She said, "Yeah, she was on the very, very back row of economy." And I just thought, why would you do that? What are you proving to people? Like, I don't. And hopefully, that's something that we install in the team, because you talk about humility, and that's it. I don't, just because I'm a CEO and a founder and perceived as successful in business, that I don't know why sitting in a first class seat or pretending you're sat in a first class seat mean something. Like I've never ever quite understood that. So yeah, and it's something I live to, and I guess that's for people can get carried away. You know, it's very easy to have money thrown at you and take it and that way and go like, don't get me wrong, we like nice things. I love watches and things like that. That's my treat. But I never got trying to be something that you're not, and I think that is something that works with the team.
Ryan, you've been beautiful. You're fantastic.
Thanks,
Thank you so much. Wish you all the best
Thanks,
with Audoo.
Thanks,
Thank you so
guys.
much for coming in.
Thank you. Thanks so much.